Alright everyone, time for another Vermont Issues video. I'll be doing these sporadically, not all the time. It'll be sort of like the occult playlist or, when I eat MREs or something, sort of a secondary thing that people are interested in. We got to talk about Vermont's minimum wage increase and how it's feel-good bullshit economics, really. It doesn't really do anything. The income disparity between the lowest income earners in Vermont and like the top 10% has only grown over the last decade considerably. And this is due to the regressive tax policies and the high cost of living in Vermont, and the fact that there isn't really a lot between the middle echelon of the working class, like someone who's working as a chef in a greasy spoon diner, and up to the margins of the upper middle class. There's not a whole lot in Vermont. There's not a whole lot of a solid middle or even stronger working through lower middle class in the state. There are people that work in automotive. There are people that work at, plumbing and electrical work and stuff, but it's not a very large group of people. The closest approximation you get is nursing, ironically. Nursing, because there's so many old people in the state of Vermont that come to retire. They end up needing someone to come into their house and, clean their ass twice a week. I mean, no disrespect, but I mean in the literal sense. And that's basically what you get. So you get a lot of income disparity. And the problem is that the wages at the bottom don't grow very quickly, and the state has slowly been upping the minimum wage, because what they did a number of years ago is peg it to inflation. And so their minimum wage that went up by 18 cents an hour year over year. Wow, 18 cents an hour. Imagine what you could buy with that. If you work all day, you can get a single candy bar. This doesn't help the poor. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't do anything. All you've done is take people over time. If you grow it slowly like that, it has no impact. If you grow it more quickly, like if you upped it to 15 an hour, what you would do is you would shove up the lowest class, but what you would really be doing is pulling down people that are just a hair above that. People that are like right now, they're making 16, 17 an hour. They're like, well, at least I can make my rent on time. I kind of have enough money. Like, I don't have to just eat ramen. I can kind of make ends meet. If they've got no debt, and they've got no other problems or outstanding like medical bills or something, $17, $18 an hour, they can afford their microscopic apartment in the middle of some snowy town in Vermont, and once a year they can take a couple of days off. They can kind of make an existence. That's the way Vermont works because the cost of living is so high. Trust me, I know. I've lived under it. I've been poor in Vermont. I know it's no different than being poor in the inner city. People will glorify and say, well, yeah, but you can go fish for crawdads out in the creek, so somehow it's better. And not really, but, get over the mythology. Here's the thing, though. What you really do when you do that is if you were to shove the minimum wage up a lot, as opposed to this incremental change, you'd take the poorest, and right now they're making like $10.90 an hour, and now they're making $15 an hour, but it's going to buy the same equivalent of goods because they're still the lowest echelon of society. What you've actually done is you've caused a depression in wages in people just above that who are making 20 an hour or 17 an hour because now their purchasing power has been reduced. And because the cost of goods would skyrocket, you've also harmed the middle class. Vermont economists don't understand this. The state has never understood this. The way to improve society in the state of Vermont, the way to make things better, is to lower the tax rate. Is to try to get more jobs into the state that are not subpar, in which people can make a living. Once that income is taxed at the new lower level, things will even out. You'll still be running a proper budget, but people will have more purchasing power. Right now, what you've done is create a Vermont in which Vermont is essentially the service society between other major metropolitan districts. That is, that Vermont contains sort of the empty, vacuous tourist pits between New York City and Montreal, between Albany and Boston. So we have a lot of greenery and clean water and air and all of these wonderful things, but the native population largely, in some cases, doesn't get to enjoy it. There are people that are living in Appalachian poverty with the dirt floor, with the we heat the house every other day sort of mentality. Yeah, we use a wood stove, we burn our trash in order to keep warm. There are people who live in that kind of poverty, and largely nobody outside of the state sees it, and nobody in Montpelier cares. And this has been a continuous problem. Farms. Everyone complains about throwing farmers subsidies, but we keep fucking taxing them out of existence. And we keep reducing the purchasing power of the lower and middle class so they can't buy the farmed goods. Tourists come in and buy it. Why do you think milk costs so much in the state of Vermont? Why do you think maple syrup is so friggin' expensive? It's not just because it takes a long time to grow a tree to make the syrup. Now, you slap a Vermont label on it, its cost rises by 200%. You'd think that people would be able to make ends meet. No, but that maple sugar largely, now they charge people $5 to come see the operation. They make more money off that than they do selling the syrup. There's the problem in the state of Vermont. Incremental, feel-good, hippie-trippy, granola-crunching, love beat, and meditation minimum wage increases never helped anybody. I'm sorry, but if you're making minimum wage in the state of Vermont, the government says, okay, you make 18 cents more an hour, that makes no difference. It makes absolutely no difference. A few dollars a week doesn't make a difference. A few dollars a week doesn't equal even one of your rental payments throughout the year. It doesn't even equal one of your monthly grocery shopping bills. It's not your electric bill. It's not your water bill. It is nothing. It's a single change of clothing and a candy bar. That's how much extra money they just gave Vermonters of their employers' money. Meanwhile, those employers, if they're able to make ends meet, they do very well. Otherwise, they go broke and they cause more unemployment. People go on food stamps. There are a lot of people in Vermont that are on assistance as well. Housing assistance. Housing is very costly. Have you looked at apartments lately in the state of Vermont? I'll tell you another story about Vermont. Look at Rutland. There's what's called the Fucci Company. And they've been slowly taking over a lot of housing, and there are different firms that come in. A lot of the housing that's affordable is subsidized housing, and it's only for people that fall into certain criteria to actually gain subsidies. It's not available to the average person. Now, the average person will pay $1,000 a month to start for anything that's not a slum. And this is in Rutland. This is in the city of Rutland. Rutland is not a high-class city. I love it. It's my home. I like being there. Rutland is great, but it's not the Ritz. It's not downtown Burlington. It's not Woodstock. It's not Queechee Village. It's more like Bridgewater than Queechee. And if you're not from Vermont and you haven't really studied it, you don't have any fucking idea what I'm talking about. I apologize, but it's more like Barrie. Like you look at Barrie, Montpelier. Okay, here's a great example. Montpelier is where more wealthy people live, and Barrie is kind of run down. It's a miniaturized, kind of slightly slummy version of Rutland. One of their local politicians tried to move in and develop a block of land in Barrie to improve it, to make it more livable, to bring it up to modern standards, put parks in and everything, and make sure everything's, there's not cracks in the pavement shit. They stopped him from even doing that with his own money because he had a political position. They wouldn't even let this dude, who's basically a fucking philanthropist, improve an entire block of land in Barrie just out of principle. This is what happens in small-town Vermont. Montpelier or some city council prevents any meaningful change so that they can scrape more money out of the state. They can get more funds and then never use them for the proper purpose. It's not just the state's fault. Don't let the communities fool you. Sometimes it's their fault too. Rutland tries hard. Rutland's run generally by sane people and still has problems because of the state. I have contempt for Montpelier. Montpelier is terrible. Every single person in Montpelier practically should be kicked out. Our worthless governor, all of the people within the House of Representatives, all of them should be kicked out. They're not doing any good to people of Vermont, half of which, they've come to Vermont either themselves or their parents moved here. Hell, most Vermonters don't even live in Vermont because they can't afford it. That's the real problem. A lot of them moved off to the Dakotas or Texas. I've thought about, seeing about these possibilities too. The state tax rate keeps inclining. The cost of living keeps going up. You've got socialists on the one hand that want to up it to $15, $20 minimum wage. And then you have the liberals on the other side, which is all we have left, that want to incrementally increase it. It doesn't even help anyone. 18 cents an hour. Wow. Wonderful. Yes, that's going to help them so much. What you should do is privatize as much as possible, reduce the taxes, reduce the regulatory burden, try to get people to come in, try to allow private individuals to invest and improve things. Yeah, they're going to make a profit off of it. Oh my God, are we afraid of the concept of capitalism? In the state of Vermont, of course, unfortunately, and this is where a lot of our problems come from, the answer is absolutely yes. That's about all. Peace out.